Are we live? Are we live, gang? Where all my wizards at in the comments? Once again, if you're not a truth teller, I say wizards, that means truth tellers, baby. Because we always keep it real. The truth is uncomfortable, but that's what we are here for. It's your boy Mike K. Smith, also known as AKS, also known as the coolest guy in sports. Back with another stream. We're talking the WNBA. We're talking the release of the 2025 Indiana Fever schedule. We're also talking some NBA trade rumors about potential former Lakers players. If you don't know who that is, that's Kyle Kuzma, that's Brandon Ingram. But the Indiana Fever have announced and released their 2025 WNBA schedule. And it's very exciting. A lot of people are excited about May coming because that's the first time we're going to get to see Caitlin Clark because she's not playing in our rival. And even that's funny because of the fact that we, as much as we wanted Caitlin Clark not to participate in the Unrivaled League due to the fact of the way that she was treated and due to the fact of her saying that she already wanted to take a rest and a break. But it still sucks because that's going to be the first time we see Caitlin Clark participate in a basketball game in May. But we have the 2025 Indiana Fever schedule. And, of course, the first matchup that they are going to be playing for their inaugural 2025 season is going to be the Chicago Sky versus the Indiana Fever, Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese. And for most people that want to talk about Angel Reese and talk about that how she has areas in her game that she needs to improve on, just like Caitlin Clark, just like most second-year players or rookies coming into the league and then going into their second year, there's areas in the game they need to improve on so they can reach their fullest potential. But one thing you can't say about Caitlin Clark and you can't say about Angel Reese is that they didn't come in and they didn't change the game. Whether their fan base is going and bumping heads and going back and forth with each other, or whether it's the merchandise sales, or where it's just like the conversation around these two players in Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, they brought so much attention to this past WNBA season. They're going to bring so much more attention to the WNBA season this upcoming year. And the fact of the matter is both of these ladies are box office, and they were doing things in their rookie season that has never been done before, and they were breaking records. So it's only makes sense that for the 2025 first season matchup, you have the Chicago Sky going to Indiana and playing Caitlin Clark because that's what everybody wants to see. That's what the world wants to see. That's what this rivalry with Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark with the Chicago Sky and the Indiana Fever. And the Chicago Sky is going to have a new team, and hopefully the Indiana Fever will have a new team and some new pieces as well. But who knows? Because the Chicago Sky, Kennedy Carter came out and basically said that she kind of wants out. So that's a weird situation when your best player is coming out and talking in the offseason and talking about they kind of want out. And we know with the expansion draft coming in 4 days, they're going to protect Kennedy Carter, of course. But it raises into questions on who are the Indiana Fever going to protect? Now, Nalissa Smith, it's been a lot of conversation around her play. We know she has a relationship with not an Indiana. We know she has a relationship with a member on the Connecticut Sun, and we know watching those 2 games and those 3 games, and they played in the first round, she always played pretty bad against anytime she was playing up against her significant other in the Connecticut Sun versus the Indiana Fever. Now, I'm not saying that has anything to do with the Indiana Fever not going to protect her, because I so hardly believe that the Indiana Fever have to protect her, because you want to keep your best players, and you get to keep your top 6 best players, and she is part of that group of the top 6 best players, and it's only right. But I say this, it's a lot of speculation that's going on because at the end of the season, she removed her Instagram bio. She removed the Indiana Fever basketball player out of her Instagram bio, and that's not really a good sign. And I know sometimes you can't pay too much attention to those little nuggets and things of that nature, but things with her in a relationship isn't as smooth as you would like it to be. And you have a lot of Indiana Fevers that want her gone. You have a lot of Indiana Fevers that's like, get rid of her attitude. They don't like her attitude. They also don't like some of the things that she does on the basketball court. But she's a young player. I think she still has a future with the Indiana Fever. I think you have to look beside some of the personal things outside of basketball and even her attitude a little bit. She is a young player and she has room to grow. She's 24 years old. I think you don't unprotect her and allow her to go to another team for free due to some of those issues. I think at best what you do is you protect her, you see if you can salvage that relationship, and if you can't salvage that relationship, then you put her out on a trade market and try to get some value back from her. And we know that Stephanie White, the new head coach of the Indiana Fever, she's already came out and named her big three. And her big three is Clark, Boston, and Mitchell. So she's letting it be known right then and there that Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, those are the big three for the Indiana Fever, as we already know, because you don't have the only players this past season to have a double-double in the same game was one, Caitlin Clark, and also in Aaliyah Boston, who did it twice in the same game. So that is their core. That is their future. Then you got Kelsey Mitchell, who's an unrestricted free agent. She's 29 years old. You want to re-sign her and re-up her because of that relationship and that pairing was electrifying, and that duo with Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell was box office. So I expect her to be back as well, and so do the Indiana Fever. That is her big three. And outside that, Lexi Holt, I expect her to be locked in. And then Smith as well, because she's young, she can rebound, she can defend, she still has a lot of upside. You don't want to lose her. And then maybe Wallace, they keep and protect as well. But for us, the 2025 regular season games that excite me, let's share right now. We know once again the first game of the season is versus the Chicago Sky. Indiana Fever versus Chicago Sky. That's going to be box office. That's going to draw numbers. That's going to probably break records, of course, because this is the second year of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reeves going into their sophomore season. There's been a lot of talks about what Angel Reeves is doing. We know her podcast is booming, it's growing. She's really becoming a superstar off the court when we force a game of basketball. We know Caitlin Clark, she's doing golf right now. She's also working on her game. And the best thing about watching basketball is we get to see who worked on what over the summer, because there's a lot of speculations about what these players should be doing and what they're not doing. But all the truth is going to be told on the basketball court, and that's what we love, because we're going to get to see who is really working on the game in the offseason. We're going to get to see who's really working on their weaknesses in the offseason. So the biggest matchup so far, the first game of the season, is Indiana Fever, Chicago Sky. And the dream is whatever. Then the defending champs, Indiana Fever, New York Liberty. I will be in attendance. I live out on the East Coast. I will be at this game. It will be my first chance to win this Caitlin Clark play live. And I'm looking forward to it. And it's going to be exciting. And once again, Caitlin Clark is box office. And then she's going up against Breanna Stewart, Sabrina Escu as well. Like, it's going to be very exciting. I hope I'm ready. Look at me right now. I'm ready to click on the tickets to see if they already have uploaded so I can purchase a ticket right now. But I'm very much looking forward to that game. And then we got the Indiana Fever, Connecticut Sun. I would say this is a big game due to the fact that they beat and knocked out the Indiana Fever in this past postseason. But I don't know the roster the Connecticut Sun is going to have. They have a lot of unrestricted free agent. Bonner is getting older. Alyssa Thomas is getting older. I don't know if they're going to be back or not. But who knows? This entire roster could look different, or it could look similar, or it could be a mixture of both things. But we know Stephanie White this is her first game back as a Connecticut Sun, and her leaving a Connecticut Sun and going to Indiana and being their head coach. We know about her pedigree. We know about her ties to that Indiana Fever team in the past and also the community. So that could be a big game, could be an emotional game for her as well. Then the Commissioner Cup is very important. As you see, they play the Mystics, they play the Chicago Sky. And I think the Commissioner's Cup is going to be a very, very, very important. And Chad, let me know how y'all feel about this. A very important test for the Indiana Fever to see how good they're going to be this upcoming season. And I know we talk about the regular season, and people in the NBA, they say that the regular season doesn't matter. That's why they introduced the Emirates NBA Cup this past season, and this year is going on as well because it make regular season games more important, bringing more money. And if you win $1 million, this and that. But for the Indiana Fever, for the WNBA in this cup, I think it's very important because it draws more attention to the league, and most importantly, is that it's only 44 regular season games now. They boosted up 2 extra games. Only 44 regular season games. Every game in the WNBA essentially matters. So I think it's very important when we talk about this cup for the Indiana Fever. It's a great test to see how great their young team is or going to be, and potentially can they be a contender this season. I know there's a lot of things that got to get done. A lot of players are still on restricted free agents. Some players went out. It's going to be trades. We don't know what the full roster is going to be for Indiana right now. But I think this cup will be a great way for them to kind of like a testing ground for them to see how good they are with their roster and how good they can potentially be. And they play some good teams. They played the Chicago Sky again. In this time in Chicago, that's going to be a big game. They play the Liberty. They play the Sun. Don't know how they're going to be. Expansion team. Also, the Golden State Valkyries. This is going to be a collection of women that's going to feel disrespected by not being re-signed by their teams. Once again, the expansion draft is in 4 days. The Indiana Fever had to protect 6 players. The Valkyrie get to pick out an entire WNBA who the best players they feel like that aren't protected, and then make a team out of those players. These are going to be a lot of women that feel disrespected, upset that they let go, and also has a chip on their shoulder because their teams did not protect them, which means their teams did not want them. So that's going to be a big game as well, with the Fever going to San Francisco and playing against the Golden State Valkyries. And then we got the first game against Las Vegas Aces, the Indiana Fever, who the Las Vegas Aces, great as they are, I expect their team to be different. We don't know if Kelsey Mitchell is going to resign. We don't know if Kelsey Plum is going to resign with the Las Vegas Aces. That is going to be a big game. It's always a big game with Asia Wilson, who right now is the best WNBA player in the world right now. And then we have Caitlin Clark, who I believe is a top 5 player in the world on the WNBA side. Her going at Asia Wilson versus Caitlin Clark, and seeing if this is going to be the season that Caitlin Clark can potentially push for that crown. I don't think she's going to get it, but I think in the next couple years, Caitlin Clark is going to push to show why she should be the number 1 basketball player in the world, why this is her league, why the Indiana Fever in the next 2 to 3 years possibly can win a championship. So this is a great testing game against the Las Vegas Aces in Caitlin Clark's second year. Hopefully, probably at this point, building, showing her strengths and the things that she has improved on from this all season, and showing that, I've worked on my game. I'm even better than last year. We're here now. I feel like this is my time. I'm not waiting on nobody to give me the crown. I'm out to take it. And I hope that's Caitlin Clark's attitude for this upcoming season. I believe it's going to be her attitude for this upcoming season, because when you watch Caitlin Clark play, and when people compare Caitlin Clark about this player and that player, and this player may be more talented, this player may be more skilled, this player may be more, just have more things in their toolbox and be able to score in a variety of ways and play defense. One thing you can't say about Caitlin Clark is she don't want it. One thing you can't say about Caitlin Clark is she's not aggressive. One thing you can't say about Caitlin Clark is she don't push the envelope. She gets it going. If she got 30, she want to get 40. If she hot and made 3 threes in a row, she want to make her next 3 threes in a row. She is the epitome of what people would say an alpha. That is Caitlin Clark. And when you have that mentality and you have that gear and you have that dog in you, where you're out for blood, you're out to kill, you're out to destroy, you want to embarrass, and you want to talk your stuff, hey, I think that's where we're going to see a lot this year with Caitlin Clark. I think she's going to be in a position where, I was trying to play the game my rookie season. I was trying to do the right things and say the right things, but eventually Caitlin Clark is going to go back to her being herself, that on-court killing. We start seeing it during the regular season a little bit. People bumping her, she bumping back. People hitting her, she moving her arms. People talking about her, she talking shit in the game as well. That's the real Caitlin Clark. This rookie season that we saw, like, okay, play the game, politically correct, but for us on the basketball court and on the basketball product, I think this year we're going to see a revenge season for Caitlin Clark, and she's going to be out for blood on the court because she wants to show people that I'm not waiting for the crown. I'm going out to take the crown, whether you like it or not. And she kind of did that in the second half of her rookie season by completely obliterating what people thought was a race in the Rookie of the Year award, and then showing like, you know what, I also am a top 5 basketball player in the world. I also am a first team all rookie as a rookie, first team all WNBA. I'm also breaking all records on records on records on records on records on records on records as a rookie. So I think we're going to see a different variation of Caitlin Clark this season. And then we got the Seattle Storm. That's a big game. Then we got the Las Vegas Sparks. Who knows? Dallas Wings. This could be a potential game because it'll be Caitlin Clark versus Paige Beckers, their first ever matchup in the WNBA. If the Dallas Wings drafts Paige Beckers, if Paige Beckers doesn't push the envelope to try to get to be a Los Angeles Sparks, who knows what Paige has up her sleeve. I think Paige is probably not going to do that. But for a marketability standpoint, for a game standpoint, for her feeling comfortable, it makes more sense for her to be in a Sparks uniform than the Dallas because it will allow her to play her game more naturally. You have Enrique, who is cold, one of the best shot creators in the league. But Paige is a point guard, but she's not a point guard. She's more better in the off-ball situation, off-guard situation, coming off screens, coming off pin downs, being a scorer. Her having to be a point guard and facilitate and also defer to Enrique is something that you don't really want to see. So those are all the games, and then we got the rest of the regular season. But those are all the games, those top games all the way up to June 27. Those are the games that I mentioned, the Indiana Fever versus Dallas Wings, Indiana Fever versus Seattle Storm, the first game versus Las Vegas Aces, Golden State Valkyries, that's important again, Connecticut Suns, Coach White going back to and coach against Connecticut, her former team, Liberty, and of course we got Chicago in the Cup, and then we got Chicago the first game of the season. So I'm very interested to see what's going to happen. I'm looking forward to it, and it's going to be very exciting. And it's also going to be very exciting to see what happens in these next 4 days with the expansion draft. Is Miss Smith going to be a part of that protection? I believe she is, because at the end of the day, as a GM, as an organization, you always do what's best for your team, regardless of how a player feels. I hate to say it, but that's just the truth of the matter. You always make sure you take care of your team, and you let bygones kind of be bygones when the time comes, and you lock in your best player, because it doesn't make sense to not, regardless of how Naija Smith feels, it doesn't make sense to unprotect her and not trade her if you want to trade her, or if she can't get herself together and be a part of the team. So that's going to be interesting. We'll know in the next 4 days who the Indiana Fever are going to protect. But I feel like players that could be gone, I think Wallace they should protect, but Katie Lloyd probably be gone. And it's going to be interesting. But 5 players I do feel like is a guarantee. It's cost the big 3, Kelsey Mitchell, Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and then you got Lexi Hull, and then I think Miss Smith will be protected. And the sixth one is up in the air, and who knows what's going to happen. So that's here on there for that. And since we're talking about protections, since we're talking about people possibly moving and going to different teams, I want to talk about a lot of trade rumors I've been hearing, I've been seeing, and it's 2 former Lakers, and those former Lakers is Kyle Kuzma and Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram is on the market. Kyle Kuzma is on the market. And it seems like also we got the Chicago Bulls with Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, as well as Lonzo Ball. So 3, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, and Kyle Kuzma are all possibly on the trade market, and teams are calling for their services, and also their teams are like, yo, call for their services. Let's see if we can get a deal done. And the biggest one that I feel like is the best fit for a lot of teams that can come in and be very impactful right away is Kyle Kuzma, because Kyle Kuzma can play the four. He can play. He's shown the ability to win a championship, being the third option, fourth option, and even can be a fifth option role depending on the team that he goes to. And he can just plug in and play and does a lot of things well. He can shoot the three. He can rebound. He's one of the best players at closing out, like closing out on it and having a defender blow past him, like using his pump fake. So I like Kyle Kuzma. He can be a fit for a lot of teams. Miami Heat should reach out. Bam needs help. He also can spread the floor and space the floor out a little bit, as we see what the Boston Celtics are doing with KP. We see what, and I also have an Al Horford. We see what the New York Knicks are doing with Karl Anthony Towns. So I think that would be a great fit. I think OKC should come calling for Kyle Kuzma. I think Miami Heat should come calling for Kyle Kuzma. Both of those fits would be great for Kyle Kuzma, I believe. The Miami Heat, he would fit beautifully next to Bam, be able to space the floor, can rebound, is a capable defender when he's engaged, but can score and put the ball in the hoop. Also, Oklahoma as well, being next to Isaiah, that would be a great fit in pairing, and allow them also to space the floor as well, because Kyle Kuzma can shoot the three. And he does a lot of great things, and he will be comfortable playing the third, fourth, or fifth option role once again. And then we got Brandon Ingram, which is a little tricky, because Brandon Ingram, as talented as he is, Brandon Ingram is the modern day version of, I feel like, Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson was an all-star. Joe Johnson was extremely underrated, a bucket getter, a guy that can go out and get you 30 and 40, and one of the smoothest players ever to play in the basket. And one of the smoothest players, Joe Johnson, one of the smoothest players ever to play in the NBA. Super underrated. A lot of times people call him overrated because of the contract that he received. He never really lived up to his contract, but he was always an underrated player, an underrated scorer, does a lot of great things on the basketball court. Best years was him not having to be a number one option like he was with Brooklyn, but best years with the Phoenix Suns, where he got to be that third option role. And maybe this is what Brandon Ingram needs. Brandon Ingram's a player that has loads of potential, but I don't think he's going to ever reach that superstar level potential. I feel like he's going to be in that Joe Johnson range. He's going to be in that Rudy Gay range, where it's just like, wow, this player is so good. He's so great, but he's just missing something. And I don't know what that something is. But one thing I do know is that Brandon Ingram needs to get in his mind that he's not a number one option anymore. He had the chance to showcase that with New Orleans Pelicans, but that's not it. And he needs to be comfortable now playing in a second, third, or fourth option role and really maximizing his skill set, because he can score in a variety of ways. He also can play defense. He has incredible length, incredible size, and he can fit a lot of great teams as well. Some people say that they will want him back on the Los Angeles Lakers, him and Kyle Kuzma. I feel like that tenure with the Los Angeles Lakers, I wouldn't do that. I would let bygones be bygones. I would stick to marginal moves, go out and possibly maybe a Dennis Schroeder. I wouldn't be too opposed with Lonzo Ball potentially coming back, but it's marginal moves that you can make, that you can get better without having to pull the trigger on a player like a Brandon Ingram, who may cost you a little bit more than necessary. And then he's also going to want a new contract this upcoming season, because the Oregon Pelicans cannot give him a contract. And maybe you could get him and give a team-friendly contract, but I just don't feel like that pairing with LeBron James and Anthony Davis is going to work. And who knows? But Lonzo Ball wouldn't be opposed to, but Lonzo Ball got some money on his contract, unless Lonzo Ball was waived and he signed on for his free agent as well. But Kyle Kuzma, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, some teams. Brooklyn would be a nice fit for Brandon Ingram. Who else? It's tough. I haven't really thought about the teams, but I think the Brooklyn Nets would be nice for Brandon Ingram. Maybe the Utah Jazz would be nice, but they're not. They got low marketing and things like that. It's the Golden State Warriors would be a good team for Brandon Ingram. He would kind of fit what they need to do, and they can probably get rid of Jonathan Kuminga. They can let that saga kind of end because it seems like it's not really necessarily going anywhere, but that can be a nice fit for Brandon Ingram as well. He gives a player that can handle the ball, create his own shot, and also guard. But then you got to worry about, well, is he going to work and pair next to Andrew Wiggins? So also a team that needs a small forward and needs a guy that can play both sides of the basketball court. And because Brandon Ingram is a capable defender, when he's locked in and he's engaged, he can guard, and also he can score. And he's improved on his three-point shooting these past couple of years. His usage rate is up and higher in that department. The Cleveland Cavaliers, he'll be the perfect fit for the Cleveland Cavaliers because I think they're starting Matt Strus and Neon at the 3. So he's a perfect fit for the Cavaliers. He can be a 6'8" wing player that can score two ways. It can get you 20 to 25 and take some of the pressure off of Garland, take some of the pressure off of Mitchell, as well as having Allen and having Evan Mobley in the front court and defending as well. Like that's not a bad move. If I'm the Cleveland Cavaliers, I'm picking up that phone. I'm trying to get Brandon Ingram. So yeah, that's all for the NBA news. Guy Richardson with CC2 playing. They are all must see. And that's the thing about Caitlin Clark. Yes, when she's playing, she's box office. She is a must see player, and it brings so much attention to not just the Indiana Fever games, but the opposing teams' arenas. It's going to be sold out. It highlights other WNBA players because you get to see how cold and talented and skilled they are. And it's going to be box office, those games that I mentioned. Chicago Sky versus Angel Reese, their sophomore year, how both of them work on their games, or if they were working on their games, we'll get to see. Then the Golden State Valkyrie, then the Connecticut Sun going back, Stephanie White coaching her first ever game against her former team, box office, then potentially Dallas Wings, Caitlin Clark versus Paige Beckers. If Paige gets drafted by the Dallas Wings, which most certainly is probably 90% likelihood that she will be, unless she pushes the envelope to get the hell away. So I want to go play with the Sparks and pulls the Eli Manning. That's going to be big. That's going to be box office. Like, it's a lot of games. Will be the defending champs in the New York Liberty. Sabrina Ionescu, who feels like she got snubbed, she got robbed, meaning that she felt like she should have been on the all first team WNBA team, and she made a joke about it in a press conference in the WNBA finals. She would be out to prove something, even also coming off of NBA finals where she didn't really play that great, and people kind of questioning like, yo, Sabrina Ionescu, I had Sabrina Ionescu above Caitlin Clark for 4/5 of the year, 80% of the season, until this backstretch of the season. It was just like, yo, Sabrina's not playing well. And Caitlin Clark was playing well, was dominating, and was able to come and steal and snatch that first all WNBA selection right up under her. She took that. A lot of people are going to talk about Alyssa Thomas. Alyssa Thomas is more of a wing player. That guard position, though, Caitlin Clark snatched her chain, took it off. So them games are going to be fire. Them first big games that I laid out for that 2025 WNBA schedule with the Indiana Fever is going to be flames. And the Commissioner Cup, once again, is going to be a very, very important test for the Caitlin Clark, not just Caitlin Clark, but the entire Indiana Fever team, depending on no matter who they have, because it's going to be expectations. Because Caitlin Clark's not going to longer be a rookie. Every year she's in the WNBA, and the closer she gets to being the best player in the world, the expectations are going to increase. I'm going to say that again. Every year Caitlin Clark's in the WNBA, expectations get higher and higher because she's coming for that throne. She's coming for the crown of being the best player in the WNBA. And when you have that potential and when you have those expectations, you either going to match those expectations or you're not going to match those expectations. And that's why it's going to be a lot of love. It's going to be a lot of hate. And when you're the best players in the world and you have that type of potential to be the best player in the league, You get that love, you get that hate, and you have to just stay mellow tone, and you have to just stay in the middle, because you can't think too much about the love, can't think about too much the hate. Only thing you can really think about is, how can I capture a championship? How can I capture an MVP? How can I continue and constantly improve on my game and get better? But I appreciate y'all. Shout out to Tony Mack, Guy Richardson in the chat, being active. All my wizards, all my truth tellers. You know what it is. It's your boy, Mike K. Smith, also known as AKISS. Make sure you go follow me, like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you go follow me on AKISS NBA at all the platforms, talking to WNBA, talking to NBA. And I'm gone, man. Peace.